we're back. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with the big zero qualifications.
Definitely. And it looks like we're Steve-less tonight. Steve is in he's
Alaska.
vacationing. Alaska.
And
Right. There you go.
Denali National Park. So good
Yeah.
for him.
So
Hope he has fun.
yeah, good. Hopefully he has a great time out there. He sent a couple of pictures. He looks like he is. So good for him. I've never been to Alaska. Would love to go. Anyway, we are the Great Classic Rock Debate. We talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting and we try to have fun. And usually there's three of us. Tonight there's two. We will make do as is. So our topic for tonight, as guys who've been listening to music our whole lives, especially rock, and because we got into the habit years ago of once we've determined that a particular artist is one of our favorites, we don't need any further proof. Once that album hits the store, we buy it. We don't need to wait. We don't need to wait until somebody says, yeah, I've listened to it 50 times now and it's pretty good. And then I go, okay, 49 wasn't enough, but now that you've listened to it 50 times, I'm going to go buy it. No. It was like, even, I'll use Boston's as an example. Boston's 1986 album. I was so just in love with Boston as a band based upon their first two albums that when they had the long delay in the 86, they released the third stage was the name of it. I go and buy it right away. I didn't have to hear a single song. I go and buy it right away. Okay. In retrospect, perhaps, not the greatest decision.
They had the slight misstep typo. It was called third stage.
Third stage. Yeah. If you ask a Jamaican, it's third stage. Well, anyway, but we've noticed over the years, and it's not that unusual, where you buy an album. Most albums have a certain continuity. Sometimes it's a theme album, but whether it's a theme album or not, the album has a continuity. The songs sort of flow together. So you've noticed over the years, every now and then you get an album, and then there's this one song. It just is a oddball, weird, kind of stands out like a sore thumb, and you say, "Wow, that song doesn't fit onto that album at all." Now, just for the record, it might be the single. It might be the hit single from the album. Or oftentimes they'll take that weird song and put it number 10. They'll make it the last track on the album. I suppose the logic of that is just in case it does disrupt the continuity of the album, let it be at the very end where it won't be as disruptive.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, we decided to try to think of some of those tonight where the song just doesn't sound like anything else on the album. It kind of breaks the continuity. And sometimes it doesn't really even sound like anything else in their entire library. So do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Well, yeah, I'll go first because you and I know this because we're older. For those of you who are younger, albums used to come on a big album and it had A side, B side. And
by the way, that is an important factor in this discussion because there was a marketing strategy. They would pick the better songs to go on side one. However, the first track on side two was usually the second or third best song on the album, at least coming from the perspective of the marketing person, because when you flipped the album to play side two, it was important that the first song on side two draw you in, as opposed to making you go, I don't want to hear side two. So that was a real important factor back in those days.
Yeah, and also, you and I have both done this, although I don't want to admit that I've done it. The spindle on a turntable was sometimes some were this big and some were this big, and you could load up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 albums on there.
Yeah.
And you want to be highly, okay, I got to get Led Zeppelin 3, whatever the first song is over there. I forgot now. I'm getting old. I have to pull all those albums off to get to that to flip it over. Right. So, and then now on this is something you may not be aware. I mean, I didn't know about this until I read an article about a band, one of the Seattle bands. It wasn't the big one, called Mudhoney.
I remember. Yeah.
Okay. I just saw them about a year ago.
It was one word, wasn't it? Mudhoney?
Yeah. Mudhoney. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had an album came out called My Brother the Cow. If I'm not mistaken, that's the right album. No, 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 no. It was before, called Piece of Cake. This album is a 10. It's one of the greatest albums. It's awesome.
Okay.
But the first song, they made it a bunch of fart noises on purpose because back then the radio people on stations and people, they would just put the first track on. If they didn't like it, they would never play the album again.
Okay.
And Mudhoney said, I don't care if you don't listen because I want to use the whole album.
So their intent was to not be played by these radio stations.
On that first song, no, just the first song. They wanted them to listen to the whole album, right? And like a lot of bands will put that first song on the front, and we both know what happens if you do that. And the rest of the album is poopy,
right?
It goes that song, and you'll see that. And people, if you're young kids, the needle on the album would actually widen the groove a little bit,
right?
And the sound of the album would degrade over time, especially if you played that one song over and over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
So I want to bring up those topics of the A and B side and getting to the end, and then I'll go first. Let's see here. Which song did I want to go out with?
Listen, I'll tell you what. Hold on. I want you to go first, but because I mentioned this song last week and had mentioned it before, I'm just going to throw it out there and then not mention it again. Go ahead. The song was "Don't Change" by INXS. We have mentioned it multiple times, and we love the song. But INXS had a very unique early 80s sound. It was difficult to categorize them because they were on MTV and they were sort of being thought of as new wave, but their music wasn't really new wave.
No.
And and then when they released this album, Shabu Shuba, I think they got it right. Yeah. And it's very INXS with the one thing, whatever. But then that last song on the album, which is called "Don't Change," sounds very different from the rest of the album, and it really has a more classic rock sound.
Yeah.
We've said it before. If you don't know the song, play it or listen. It's a great song. But anyway, that is the example of kind of what we're looking at. Not saying it's a bad song. It's just different. It just sounds different than the rest of their album, and it kind of doesn't fit necessarily. So, okay, I'll turn it over to you.
My example was not necessarily classic rock, but Duran Duran Rio, and the song is called "The Chauffeur."
Right.
And you're like, listen to these real poppy, dancey. I mean, Duran Duran is so incredibly catchy.
Right.
And then like back in the day, you flip that album over, it got to that thing, doo doo out on the top, and you're like, oh, is this the same band?
Right.
Like you get up and go, did they get a groove wrong? And you're like, whoa. And then and it took you a while to get used to it because it's not an instantly pop song.
Right.
It takes a while. That's one of those songs that grows on you, and you're like, oh wow. So I was always, if I ever met Simon Le Bon, I'd be like, hey dude, what's the deal? And believe me, I just saw them about a year and a half ago. That song is huge.
Really?
Yeah. And then I did some research on the video. Have you seen the actual video?
I don't think so.
There's a bunch of girls. There's this real pretty girl. She's like the chauffeur, and at the end of the video, she's got her top off. You can see her breasts, and she's dancing in this weird kind of erotic dance. I went, oh, that's interesting. That's probably why that video got banned because she's topless. And then I did this, and evidently that was an homage to some German movie that was made in the 30s or 40s where they were passing this woman around. The Nazis were.
Okay.
And she was topless, and she was doing that same dance. So that's what I've read, and I actually saw the clip. But anyway, the song doesn't belong on the album. I'm glad that it's there, but we're going to get into some of that in a minute. So it's your turn.
Okay. All right. And just for the record, not that this is on my list, but because you mentioned Duran Duran, I always kind of felt the same way about "Save a Prayer," which was on the next album. Yeah.
No, it's on this album.
And it's on Rio. It's on Rio? I thought it was on the next album. Oh, it is on Rio. Okay. Yeah. It didn't hit the radio until about a full year after that. And man, is it a great song, but doesn't sound like their typical stuff. Okay, so my first choice, which is going to be, I suppose, very predictable. Okay, we're Led Zeppelin guys here, but the song is Jermaker, which some people might call Dire Maker, but it's actually pronounced Jermaker. And it was from Houses of the Holy.
Correct.
And it incorporates a reggae rhythm
Very
of
much.
or whatever, which would have sort of unheard of at the time. And it sounds so different from everything else that they ever did. And it's a great song. It's catchy and I love it. And I'm glad they recorded it. In fact, that
Oh yeah.
it got a lot of radio airplay simply for the fact that it had a different kind of sound in 1974, I think it was probably. And yeah, but sounds nothing like the rest of I don't think they did reggae again after that, but anyway, great song and definitely the stand apart doesn't necessarily fit with the continuity song. Jamaica.
This does not apply. What I'm about to say does not apply to Led Zeppelin because Led Zeppelin was already, Page and Jones were session musicians, and they all these people had encyclopedic knowledge of the black R&B, black rock and roll, encyclopedic knowledge. Okay, like the Stones.
The Brits, the Brits.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they worshipped the blues artists of the 40s and the 50s and the R&B artists, Chuck Berry and the Motown. They just worshipped them. So yeah.
And even it was amazing. We're now diverging, but even after Elvis sold 700 trillion copies, was there an American band who was white that took in Elvis's footsteps?
No.
No,
there wasn't.
Until Page, Clapton, Beck, all these incredible players.
Yeah.
Really, how stupid. Now, is it? I guess it is racism, but it's also just stupidity.
Yeah.
Like, why not? All right. So, all right. I'm going to go off with a weird one now.
Okay.
This is called, let's see. It's not Fire of Unknown Origin. I think it's the name of the album. And it's Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah.
Really cool song called Joan Collins.
Okay.
And it's near the end of, have you heard the song?
I have, because that was an album that in college, I recorded the whole thing onto one side of a TDK 90-minute tape, but I don't recall it that well.
Oh my God. It's one of their best songs. And it's about, usually heard as a metaphor for things going really bad and being evil. And they were always kind of doing contemporary, not always, but they mix a lot of contemporary stuff. But Joan Collins, and it's got a lot of violin in it. It's you should go back. It is like a masterpiece.
Okay.
And the rest of the album is more rocky, R-O-C-K-Y. But this song, it's rocky, and it's talking about how policemen are running from little girls and they're all scared, and it's a really cool. It doesn't belong on the album. Now, it's cool to say we put it there on purpose. But my other point was, and I'm going to get to this in my next one, but it's your turn.
Okay. So this one I'm going to go to 1979, and it's Fleetwood Mac. Now, keep in mind, I got to set the stage here. Fleetwood Mac had recorded 2 straight albums, Fleetwood Mac followed by Rumors, and they had sort of established not only a very prominent radio presence, but they had established a certain style, what we now sort of call the California West Coast. It's rock, but it's not hard rock, and
Eagles Light, sorry.
Yeah, okay. And so Lindsey Buckingham wanted to sort of go in a different direction with the next album, but the rest of the band was concerned that, we're going to alienate our core audience. I mean, they're addicted to us right now, and they want more of what we've been giving them. So the album ended up being sort of a compromise. There were definitely some very Fleetwood Mac songs on there, and then there were some that were a little different, okay? So I'm going to zero in on the title track, which was called Tusk, okay? And on a double album with 20 songs, it was number 19. So it's not the last song.
That's correct.
Yeah. And that song, and I got to tell you, in 1979, I really didn't like it. I go, God, this is not Fleetwood Mac. I just didn't like it. I thought, what a letdown. Man, as the years passed, has that song grown. It is awesome. It really is. And it is definitely a departure from what they had been doing. And it definitely stands apart from the rest of the album or whatever. I think they have the USC marching band playing with them.
Oh, you could be right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have the USC marching band playing. Anyway, yeah, it's different. It's great. The song rocks. It's very indescribable. And I think that if you are a Fleetwood Mac fan, you're unlikely to like it the first time you hear it. But if you just give it a chance, it's like, wow, that is a really great rock song and a work of genius, but nevertheless, a definite departure for Fleetwood Mac.
That I just listened to an album, like I told you, I was going through a revisiting of Fleetwood Mac about him. And my pick with that, and it's the first song on the album of Rumor, so I'm an idiot, but Secondhand News.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't sound like the rest of that album, because the rest of the album, you got the ladies singing.
Right.
McVie and Stevie Nicks.
Right.
And God, but that album, that song, that's one of my favorite songs. When Kid Rock sampled it. So
it's a great song, and it's probably barely 3 minutes long. It's short.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great album opener, by the way.
Yeah. All right. So now this one's going to lead me into when I have to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Kenny, is by the Police, Secret Journey on Synchronicity.
Okay.
Was that right? No, Ghost in the Machine. I had to fix myself. I know that was wrong.
Correct.
Ghost in the Machine. And it's a really cool song. And
I remember it.
This guy. It's a great song. But the album in totality, it's almost like they had a band fight. And like one time, Sting was on one side, Andy Summers, and then they call in Stupid Copeland to break the tie. And the other ones, because that album's got like 5 or 6 rock songs, and the other ones are all like, everything she does is magic. And of course, they all want to make their bank account big.
Right.
Or We Are Spirits of the Material World. But then you got this Demolition Man, or my favorite song is on this Omega Man.
Yeah.
It's like this guy who wants to jump off a cliff. It's like this really, it's like, this album is like, so what do you think? Do you think they were selling albums, or was that one of the things that eventually led to their breakup, or what? What do you think?
It's a good question, but this is so funny. I had actually chosen Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic as one of my songs because it's such a lighthearted, catchy pop song, but so much of that album is dark,
Yes, that's what I hope.
And so for me, Every Little Thing was the song I felt like stood out because, and especially, and I think this is important, that was the lead single. So that's the song you were hearing on the radio. And then when you buy the album and bring it home and put it on, in your mind, you're expecting to hear that. And the first song was Spirits in the Material World, I think.
Yes.
Which was similar but different. Yeah. And then Every Little Thing, and then it goes dark after that. And I was like, okay, didn't see this one coming, it's a great album though. Make no mistake about it, but very unpredictable. And
so you think, what does your gut say? Like they did this on purpose, or they had fist fights?
Okay. Here's my only thought. If you look at their first 3 albums prior, okay, their popularity was snowballing. Each album sold more than the previous one. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were initially sort of a new wave band. Correct. All right. I don't even think the word new wave was being used yet in 1978, but that's kind of what they were doing. They were British. They were incorporating some of that element of punk. They were also using reggae and some other stuff. They were kind of creating their own thing. Yeah. But with each passing album, they were moving more into mainstream rock and away from new wave. They never abandoned it, but they just veered more into mainstream rock. So I think that on that album, Ghost in the Machine, I think it was just more of a creative thing where they were saying, let's not be predictable. We've done our new wave stuff. Let's do something a little different. Let's make some weird song choices here. And, by the next album, Synchronicity, great album, my God. But there was very little new wave left in their music by that time.
Well, you and I both worship the song Synchronicity 2.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Every
Synchronicity 1 is great. Synchronicity 2 is amazing and classic. Yeah.
Because I literally think about your dad and my dad. I'm serious, because what your dad had to go through, his life and mine, and you're like, oh, how did our dads do it?
Yeah. Going to work every day and punching a clock because you've got to feed these kids. You don't have any say so. You can't say, you know what, take this job and shove it. I don't want to work anymore. That was not an option. Yeah. And so, then that song sort of represents that.
And the guy in the song becomes a monster. And
Yes.
like, all
Oh
right. So
man.
yeah, I know and I try to make my daughters listen to it, and they're just too young to understand
Right.
the
Yeah, they are.
grind of life.
Yeah.
So, all right. My next song now, this is the final. No, it's not the final track. Okay, you're right. It's the second to final track. It's by a band called Four Non Blondes.
Okay, what's up?
And no, that's not it.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I
That's
got
the
that in
third
mind.
track.
All right.
This is what this album is fabulous. If you listen to it from front to end, it is. I give it like 10 out of 10 stars.
Okay. I've never even listened to the album once, but I remember at the time that song was popular, you told me more than once you have to hear the album because that song "What's Up" is not representative of the album. And even though I never
Yeah,
heard it, I never forgot that you told me that.
yep. Because and so this song is called "Drifting."
Okay.
It's about this woman who's super depressed and she's dying and she wants to die.
Okay.
Like I went to this party about 3 years ago. There was this girl and a guy. They had like a little two-piece band and they were singing. I just started laughing and they saw me and I went up to them later and said, "I'm not laughing at you. I love what you said." You said, "Well, when we play the song from Titanic, people start crying and at the parties." And I go, "That song is for kindergartens who wipe their butts." And I made them. I brought her into this other room. It was at a party at an art museum. So I start playing the other song, "Drifting" by Four. And she's like, "Who is this?" So that's Linda Perry singing. And she's like, "Oh my!" Like, and he's like, "What?" And then they were just blown away.
Okay.
I said, "Try playing this song, and you'll get people shooting themselves," which I don't. You don't want to do. It's like a super depressing song, and I
Okay.
think that's another topic for another time. But when an album has that second to last song is depressing, they can't let the album end there. They can't.
Right.
Your last thing is so the end is like this real funky song that Four Non Blondes. I think they probably put it on as an afterthought. You can't have this super depressing song as the last song because people blow their brains out, right?
Right. Right.
So, so they had the song as a funky song, but that album is tremendous. But this song, "Drifting," you like the rest of the album is popish and bluesy. This is like so this is one of these things where it's like a stream of consciousness.
Okay.
And
Oh,
it's
I want to hear it now.
yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
It's depressing.
All right.
Hey, depress me. It's really scary. Scare me.
All right. Scare me. Okay. So I'm going to stick with your mid 90, 93 or 94, whatever that time would have been. Um, I'm going to go with this song "Black" by Pearl Jam. Okay.
Oh,
Now, I did not buy that album immediately. I was hearing the songs on the radio, Jeremy and Alive and Even Flow, whatever. I was hearing a number of the songs, and there was definitely a continuity to those. They were very grungy. They were good rock songs, and I think that they definitely fit our concept of what classic rock is. But it was months later that I heard that song "Black" for the first time, and dude, when I heard it, it stopped me in my tracks. I went, wow. Oh, even Professor of Rock, he did an entire episode about the song "Black." And the album is titled 10, and "Black" is the 10th song on the album. And it's slow, it's almost like a dirge. It definitely has a power element to it, though. And Eddie Vedder really blows those vocals away. And I don't know, is it depressing? I don't know. I think it has an element of that, certainly. But I don't know. When the song, by the time the song is over, I'm not depressed. I feel good when I hear it, you know.
I love that song. I love that album. I just resurrected it literally last week.
Okay.
And because I'd put it away for a while, not intentionally, because I've moved like 5 times. I try to get more stuff
Right.
on my player, and I was like, yeah, no, that's an excellent choice. Like that band had a lot. We'll talk about that. We should probably talk about that band another time. But
Probably. But all these years later, for me, that is the standout. Okay. I still like the other songs, but track 10, "Black," is the standout track
very
on
good
there
song.
that I could probably never get tired of. It's that good for me. All right.
Well, it says you made me because you brought up grunge. I mean, they're not necessarily grunge, but a song on Nevermind. Okay, um, "Something in the Way." It's like the second to last song, I believe, on
Okay.
Nevermind. Do you know the
Okay.
song?
I
It's
don't
just
think so.
I think you do know it. He's
Okay.
strumming on a guitar. Doom, doom. He talks about you saw Batman, the Batman.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So when the Riddler kills this guy's dad, Batman goes to the house where the murder happened, and he's walking into the living room and he sees this boy whose dad was murdered. And that song kicked off. I went,
Oh,
oh my
really?
God, this director is a effing genius, because that's what happened to him. And he's got to be Batman. He should say, hey man, my parents were murdered too.
Right.
But and his parents were, in the movie makes his parents a tiny bit dirty. This guy's dad was dirty. So he has but he can't, he has to play Batman. So he can't
Right.
fish something in. And the irony, this guy, Matt Reed, I think this director, he's a genius.
That really is the use of that. Yeah. That's
because the song is talking about you can torture and kill fish because they don't have any feelings. And it's talking about this flood, and these fish and animals are trapped. And he owns them, or he's like God of them. So if you remember at the end of Batman, that's exactly what happens. The people in Gotham get trapped. Like
right.
So now the Riddler is the Kurt Cobain, like, oh my God, that's exactly what happens to Gotham. And I mean, it's kind of like it's analogous to Donnie Darko, someone writing a whole movie based on The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Right.
So it's almost like he goes, okay, I got Batman. I know who Batman is. What's going to happen with Batman? Oh, I know that song by Nirvana. And he's going to flood Gotham. It's going to be just like the song. But the rest of that album, as you know, it's like one of the famous albums ever, is heavy punk, loud.
Right.
And this thing is 2 chords. I can't. I know you know the song.
Okay. Well, as soon as we wrap up this evening, I'm going to go play it right away. But I probably do know it.
I know you do.
Okay. Am I up?
You're up.
Okay. The band is going to be The Clash. The Clash. Okay. Yes. Now.
Yes.
Now, they were very punky, especially in their early days, right? And even by the time that they started getting songs on the radio, they were still punky and new wave, whatever. Rock the Casbah and Should I Stay or Should I Go? Yeah, okay. But let me tell you, those were not. The first song I heard by them was in 1980, and I had never even heard of The Clash. I never even heard of them. And I started hearing this song on the radio, and it was catchy. It really wasn't very new wave-ish or punkish. It was just a catchy song, Train in Vain.
Oh, yeah.
Train in Vain. Okay. It was a double album, which I can't remember.
It was a secret song or something, right? It was a
hidden
song.
Like it was like the very last song on the double album. And if you read the label, this song wasn't even listed.
Right.
Yeah. And
one of the greatest songs ever.
It's great. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, I'm hearing this song on the radio, Train in Vain, and I go, I got to get this, right? So when I go to the record store and I find out it's a double album and it's like, I don't know, $14. When you're in college, you don't have that kind of money to spend. Right. So I go, okay, I guess I won't be buying that. And it was only within months after that I met Trish, who had the album.
Oh, yes.
So I go, hey, I'm going to borrow this, and take it and listen to it. She goes, go ahead. I don't care. So I take it home and I start playing it. And I got to tell you, Train in Vain does not sound like anything on the rest of the album, because the rest of the album is very punky. It's 1980. Yeah. And they're doing their punk thing. So I don't know what the story was that led up to tacking this extra song on the end of it, and then not even putting the name of the song on the album cover, Train in Vain. But it sounds nothing like the rest of the album, but it's a great song. And in fact, for me, it's probably the best song The Clash ever made. And 44 years later, still sounds great to this day.
So, you won't get too many arguments on that. That's a Clash. Yeah. All right. Mine is Cheap Trick.
We got our warning.
I saw it.
Okay. All
right. All Shook Up, 1980. They had their standard. This album is a departure. And again, this goes back to the Police. Something happened at this album We should try to. I don't know if we can ever get Bunny Carlos or Rick Nielsen to get on the show, and because Bunny Carlos not with the band anymore. They fired him. I was some
Okay.
kind of
All
nasty
right.
parting of the ways.
I'm sorry to hear that, but those dudes are getting up in years. So, you know.
So, because the album immediately after All Shook Up is like this popish stuff. It's like someone came and put Machine Guns up. Okay, All Shook Up had rock beat and it's some really cool songs. You're never gonna play
Right.
like that again. You're gonna play this poppy stuff, and I'm like,
Right.
ah. So there's a song called High Priest of Rhythmic Noise.
Okay.
And it's like it's a singing rounds and they use that voice. I don't remember from the original Battlestar Galactica, the Cylon voice.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably didn't watch that show, but
I never saw it.
it's that same voice, and it's talking about this people and a mind choir, and they
It's like a robotic type of voice. Is that what you?
yes,
Okay.
very
Okay.
robotic, but
Okay.
it's really cool. And you're like, where did that come from? Like it's almost like again, like someone walked in the studio and goes, "We have this song, you're gonna record it, or we're gonna shoot you all." But it doesn't sound like street good. We don't care. You're gonna do it. They're like, okay, we'll do it. And they put on the thing, and then if I was Cheap Trick, I would have stopped after that album. I said, "You're not gonna do anything better," and they didn't. They had a couple songs after that, but
Yeah.
their stuff came
They
in
had
the
some
70s.
decent 80s material, but yeah, wasn't
Like
as good
She's
as
Tight was like, okay, all right.
right, right, right.
But all right, your turn.
Okay. So a couple months back when we had our discussion of the Mount Rushmore of classic rock, and I said, I don't want it to be all Brits. So I'm gonna put one American band up there, and I chose the Allman Brothers, who are one of my favorites. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they recorded their first album in 1969, and they established themselves pretty early on as great live performers. Their concerts were just mega shows. People loved to go see them in concert. And these guys were like heavy Southern rock blues. We talked about it before. Yeah. They combined a lot of different stuff. Their music was complex.
Yeah.
As a young teenager, not easy to get into it. You get older and you can start appreciating what they were doing and you go, man, this was just genius, okay? But the song that broke them through from the album, Brothers and Sisters, was the song Ramblin' Man, okay? At the time that song became popular, and when I say popular, holy crap, it was huge. It was everywhere. It was you couldn't get away from it. I did not know a single song by the Allman Brothers up to that point. That was the first song I heard by them. And it's very, I think you would say, country rock kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Pop country rock kind of thing, you know, very catchy, very easy to sing along with. And needless to say, it went to number 2 on the charts. I forgot what kept it from being number 1, but it was a huge hit. So everybody is going, the Allman Brothers. Oh my God, I love the Allman Brothers. Ramblin' Man, easy to memorize, you know, and sing along with. So I don't think I ever bought the album, but one of my buddies, schoolmates, or somebody had it. And when I listened to it and was listening to all these heavy blues, Southern rock stuff that sounds nothing like Ramblin' Man, I was kind of like, what? I couldn't even believe it was the same band. Like,
was that a cover?
No, that was an original song. But listen, they did on their next album, they recorded more songs that were in the same, you know,
they knew what people liked.
Yeah, Blue Sky and what, but at the time, that was their first venture into the pop country rock kind of thing, and it was very successful, but it did not mix at all with what they had been doing up to that point. And on that album, yeah, it stands out. It doesn't sound like it belongs at all on the album. And I say none of that as a knock because I love the song, but my appreciation for the Allman Brothers, who I think are awesome, really has nothing to do with Ramblin' Man. Okay, it just got me started, but yeah.
That's okay. But Go ahead, but that's
all I was going to say was you will finish us up. So after you do your next, but if
No,
you want to
you
continue
said
with
so-
Allman Brothers, go ahead.
no, but you said something that's brilliant. One night I was at Tony Roma's in Coral Springs, and the Four Non Blondes album was on. So I said, okay, I'm captive. I was with my first wife. I said, I'm not going to listen to any other garbage. I put like $2 and I played the whole album. And I started listening to it. So what you just said is what happened to me. I heard a song that I liked. I'm going to listen to the whole album now. It may be or may not be representative, right? So what you said, that's the whole point of a single.
Right.
Theoretically, is to get you to buy the album, right?
Right.
Okay. So all right. So mine is, and I had to. That's what I was doing. Is just looked it up. By the greatest band ever from Canada. 4-letter word, rhymes with push. No, it's rush. Push and rush. Explain that to a person in Japan speaking English. Like, so Working Man is one of the greatest songs ever.
It
ever.
is.
It's the last. I just triple checked. It's the last song on the album.
It is. It's the last song on the album.
I'm like, this is a phenomenon that bands don't understand what is good, because I think they're so inured, nice word, to like just playing some stuff, and they can't self-scout.
I think you're right.
And they put that in the last, like for instance, there's a song by Soundgarden called Drawing Flies. You know, like your dad, you're drawing flies. It's like a 2.5-minute song. Whenever they would play it, the crowd goes crazy. And I go, we don't even really like that song. I'm like, it's one of your best songs you ever made. And the crowd, they go, every time we play, the crowd goes crazy. There might be a clue there, Chris Cornell. I know you did, rest in peace. You might want to play more songs like that because the crowd loved it. And you know, it's like Steve will talk about the Eagles. Like when those guys, when they reformed, they're like, we're going to play all those songs. I don't want to play those songs. Well, go to another band.
Right.
The audience wants to hear, you know, Life in the Fast Lane, all these kind of songs like that. You don't want to play that? Go play and not the Eagles.
Right.
So okay, Working Man's mine. I'm done. I'm out of material. Go ahead.
Okay, now we're down to 1 minute, so we're going to wrap it up. But that's a great choice, and I got to tell you, that was the first Rush song I ever heard. Probably in 1970.
Really?
Yeah, probably in 1976 or something like that.
Was way down the line for me. I didn't hear it till, because you're like what, 3 years older than me?
Right. One of my buddies who had a Mustang and an 8-track player, like his older brother had given him the Rush 8-track and said, play this. And we were playing it, and some of it wasn't necessarily resonating, but Working Man, I go, wow, that's a great song. Okay, we're ticking down. So listen, we're done for tonight. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. Steve, when you watch this, give us a comment and let us know how we did. Okay, buddy? We hope we kept it up to standards. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Until we meet again, we'll see you next time.